Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an absolutely fantastic day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. The last couple of days within the cryptocurrency space have been, as always, just a bit bizarre. I keep wishing and hoping that at some point things will lightly get back to normal. If you follow me on Twitter, which I hope you do, you've seen the articles that I've been posting and things that have been going on, and I think everyone is currently in this really weird pseudo space where everyone's anticipating the exact same thing. I think a lot of people have kind of and I say this in the nicest way, gotten near to the point of insanity when it comes to a lot of stuff that's going on, whether it be the actual news, the perceived news of what could be happening behind the scenes that we don't know about, and or things that have to do with prices. We've kind of gotten to the point where, and I told all of you before, if you've been following the channel for a while, that we would eventually get here. What ends up always happening is that we end up getting price predictions. They end up being, relatively normal. But then we kind of have people going through the motions and talking about where they think that certain things could go based on previous times and highs and other projections of where the prices were before. A lot of it gets quite muddy because it ends up looking or sounding absolutely insane. So on that note, let's jump into it because you're going to begin to see a pattern over the course of the next, and I dare say 18 to 24 months. That's just where we are right now as far as price movements. This also aligns relatively with the idea of a $1 million Bitcoin in the next cycle as well. Everyone's kind of, I think, throwing out numbers because it sounds fantastical or amazing, but a lot of times it's like, okay, buddy, just kind of hold your horses. It says the price of ADA has surged by more than 45% so far this month, as it has outperformed a number of other digital assets amid growing adoption, and I would also even say speculation. A new price prediction has now suggested that ADA could rise over 10,000% over the course of the next 2 years. I told you it was going to get a little bit intense. According to a trader using the handle Fiery Trading, the cryptocurrency's price has practically been going up in a straight line after bouncing off of a support level within a trading channel called a parallel channel, formed through a line between two bull market tops and copying the same line towards the bottom. That's just a lot of really weird words for saying the price is going up. A trading channel is a way of visualizing the price movements of a security over time. It consists of two parallel lines that connect the highs and the lows of the price. Forming a channel, it can show the direction and strength of a trend, as well as the potential areas of support and resistance. Apparently this person is, and this is happening across multiple different coins. You've definitely heard it for Bitcoin as well. A lot of people are looking at the previous price movements and saying where the previous low was, how much it multiplied during the last run, and if we can hit those numbers once again, where X coin would be. So this is why you've heard the numbers. I mean, if we go back to 2020, yeah, it seems like a pretty good amount of time. We saw all markets tank, but Bitcoin and Ethereum in particular also fell pretty hard. I think Ethereum even fell down to $80. And this is why people are multiplying based off of the 2017 bull run. I think Ethereum went from $8 to 1,200. So people are saying, well, if we hit 80 as our new low because of Coco Roro and the movement that we subsequently had up, this is why we're getting those $10, $15, $20,000 Ethereum projections based off of the previous low. So if you do the same exact thing for XRP, I think was also, but I mean, some of the numbers for XRP are just like, what what is actually happening. I don't know if you guys saw it recently. There was someone who was projecting, oh gosh, what were the numbers? It was somewhere around a $100 or $200 XRP, and I was like, for those of you who haven't been here or weren't here during that particular video, I think $10 is realistic. I think 15 is like, I could see it. You know, the market goes bananas. I can see it happening. $20 is like, oh, maybe we have a really good 18-month period. $100 is like, come back to me in like 2032 when the world has like fully adopted crypto. This person is saying that they think over the course of the next 2 years, based off of its previous movements, that Cardano could actually go up to $35 per coin. I think this is possible in a world where much of the world's financial institutions have collapsed and people are looking for another system. And over the course of a couple of weeks, months, the prices of crypto have continuously continued to pump up higher. So we're going to keep getting a lot of these. They're going to keep popping out of everywhere. And these, I mean, price predictions, at least to me, are relatively fun sometimes. But these are actually the things that always get new people into the market. It's kind of this idea of how much people could grow their money. What a lot of newer people to the markets usually, neverly, actually understand is that the big money is made while the prices are down. So like, you know, Cardano's like 7-8 cents. That's where you get the extra multiples from, because you're able to buy a whole lot more at a very low price. But if you start getting into coins when they're 35 cents or 50 cents, and you have not had a chance or simply were not accumulating over the course of a 2-year period when our market was down, you know, you're not going to make the big money. You have to kind of be in the market all the time. That's at least the general idea behind it. So there were a lot of other price predictions. This is more of the newer ones. We've had many for XRP, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Not many other coins. I don't see price predictions or, like, dare I say, realistic price predictions for a lot of other coins. A lot of stuff for like Shiba Inu. People are talking about like 10, 15, not Shiba Inu. For Dogecoin, same thing. Talking about 10, 15, 20. And I'm like, you guys have no idea how money actually or numbers work. So yeah, that's, I guess, some optimistic news. We'll probably get there at some point. But if we get to a $35 ADA during the 2024-2025 bull run, I mean, that basically means the value of houses have gone down. Stocks are kind of collapsing and crumbling, and but at least the crypto markets would do well in that situation. That's the fiery trading thinks ADA could surge by over 10,000% in the next 2 years news. And yeah, let's move on. Why can't I click? Hold on. There we go. For those of you who also, this is also very typical bull news at the moment, or bull run news, if you will. It has to do with the amount of new millionaires in the space. This is also going to be a very huge topic over the course of the next couple of years. It's also another thing that gets people into the market and back into the market. A lot of it, of course, has to do with FOMO. You missed out. You weren't here. You could have been doing X, Y, and Z, but you chose not to do so, kind of things. We're getting a lot of numbers about the newest or latest Bitcoin millionaires, people who have been holding Bitcoin, buying tons of Bitcoin over the course of the last couple of years. As the price of Bitcoin has basically all but doubled and more since the beginning of this year. Of course, people who had tons of Bitcoin are now, you know, they've moved up in a price category as their money has basically doubled. Where's the actual numbers? Yeah, there's a little chart right here as well. They show the addresses who currently have more than X amount of money. So for I didn't even know this was a thing. For people who have just it says addresses who are richer than $1, meaning the amount of addresses who have at least $1.01 within their wallets are 42 million wallets. Of course, the big shebang that everyone is focusing on is the one that holds over $1 million worth of Bitcoin. And it's currently 81,717 different wallets out there. If we're expecting Bitcoin to kind of 10x from here, I think 10x to me, I dare even say 8-9x. I think we're probably going to get roughly around a $180,000 to a $220,000 Bitcoin. I say those numbers simply based off of previous price movements. I think we will do a lot better than we did in 2021 when the world was literally in chaos. Bitcoin should have gone over 100K, but we did not have the opportunity to do so as markets around the world were literally crumbling under the idea that we might have to stay inside of our homes for another 2, 3, 4 years. So I think a lot of the optimism of price movement up comparative to fear kind of outweighed each other. But from here, I think over 200K, this is my opinion, seems relatively likely. I think 250 begins to be a bit more shaky as far as the amount of money that needs to be pushed into the market over the course of this time frame. And also and I'm still waiting for it, the illustrious $250,000 Bitcoin as far as and I can't find it. Maybe I did. No. Maybe did someone post it to me on Twitter? There's someone out there. Hello, I can't remember your Twitter handle. I'm waving to you. You can't see me, but I actually my hand is physically waving right now. There's a Twitter handle that continuously, like every time I talk about something in a video and I can't find it, they end up finding it for me. It's basically this article from a number of years ago about this Swiss bank who stated something along the lines of like, if Bitcoin does hit $250,000, it's big enough to supplant or push aside the US. I don't know. Anyway, the point is that's kind of like the big number for me and has always been. Of course, the number 1 million is logically bigger than 250,000. But seeing Bitcoin get to 250K is kind of the like, okay, we won. Like you can't really stop us anymore. So logically, this number is going to continue to go higher. We're going to continue to hear about a lot of people who are re-becoming Bitcoin millionaires. Remember all those articles a number of years ago when Bitcoin was hitting its peak and this person's like, hey, I became a Bitcoin millionaire. So logically, as the price of Bitcoin has fallen lower, we are going to hear these people re-popping back up in the news. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. That's kind of that's kind of the game. Everybody wants to make a lot of money from this market as well, regardless of anything else that's actually going on or the news that we have at the center of all of it. It's kind of making big bucks. So I do actually applaud everyone who's been here for a long time. I know a lot of people do leave the channel, leave the market the moment they see prices falling, but everyone else who hung on, who's been dollar cost averaging, who's been buying fragments, who've been, it adds up in the end. I've been saying that for a number of years. It's the people who buy a couple hundred XRP every month. It's the people who buy ADA every month, every 2 weeks. It's the people who buy, fragments of Ether or any other coin. It adds up. If you look at your wallet now, comparative to what you had 2 years ago, you have a lot more. If we end up 8, 9, 10xing in price, your money's going to do the exact same. So these are always the people who end up benefiting the most and end up making the most money from it. Yeah. That's the new amount of Bitcoin millionaires. Apparently, it's currently at, I'm sure it's more because the price is always fluctuating at this point. It's over 81,000 different wallets. And then this is only for Bitcoin, not even for altcoin prices as well. Yeah. That's the Bitcoin millionaire news. And let's move on. So a lot has a lot, and I'm going to actually swing around it just simply because I'm mentally this early morning not in the mood to rant. It's just something about today. I'm going to try and not do it. A lot of the news as of late has revolved quite heavily around Binance. So I'm going to say one thing and then I'm going to try and never touch on to the topic again. Something about all of this is very weird. All of it. I know I haven't been talking about it because I'm trying to get my mind together. I've been in the cryptocurrency space for a while, and I think it is abundantly clear at this point that our market is already controlled by market makers. That is to say, years ago, crypto was mainly controlled and run by the people, the everyday, people out there. But over the last couple of years, seeing the amount of institutions who've gotten into the space, it's clear that their entrance did not mark them putting, slamming a dollar on the table. They slammed briefcases worth of money, and therefore their weight is quite substantial within the space. I do think it is very weird that a huge amount of negative news regarding crypto is exclusively coming from one country. Exclusively. We heard years ago, back in 2017, 2018, there were 3 countries, I believe, who banned crypto outright. They didn't want it. These countries are usually relatively corrupt, and they probably saw that anything decentralized might take away their corrupt powers, and therefore they're like, okay, we got to get rid of it to keep things relatively centralized, or as centralized as possible. But the other part of it for me has been, or I'm sure for a lot of other people, the idea that crypto would be able to flourish within the United States. Not to say that it has not, but you understand. Between the SEC and the rumors that we received as to why these things happened to Binance and who they might have been from, for those of you who don't know the rumors, as Changpeng Zhao no longer was the CEO of Binance, we had rumors that apparently there was a whistleblower who told the SEC that there were wrongdoings happening. The rumor is that it might have actually been BlackRock. I don't know. We don't know. Only the people who made the calls or were sitting in these rooms. And the idea is that BlackRock basically owns the world. So why should we be surprised if they did allegedly do something like this to be able to kick out the leader of the largest crypto exchange on the planet, as they're basically trying to, have a foothold in all these things themselves. So that's all I'm going to say on the topic. Something feels very slimy. I don't care for it. I've been in crypto a long time, and my original mindset for the space, this is me personally, has always been equality. It's always been crypto for everyone. We can do things not by ourselves. Of course, other people are allowed to come into the market, but it's kind of like a we got this kind of thing. We can make a brand new world where things are better. But it's unsurprising that the people who do terrible things to the planet and to people, of course, would swing their way into our market and then do terrible, toxic things also to our markets as well. On that note, similar to the news that we were getting for a number of years regarding Ripple and XRP news, over the last 3 or so years, we got consistent news that XRP was having trouble because of the SEC. Ripple couldn't do this because of the SEC. XRP was going down because of the lawsuit against Ripple and the SEC. That whole thing. While in every other country, we heard news that Ripple was opening new offices. Ripple was opening new this. They had new partnerships with Dubai. You name it. It's kind of this. One place has a red symbol on top of it, while the rest of the world is glowing bright green for that company. And I think in this regard, I think this is what people are also going to have to come to terms with as well. In that Binance is a global company. There's a reason why, besides the regulatory aspect, but there's a reason why over the course of this year and last year, we heard news every 2 weeks that Binance was getting a new set of paperwork and or license size, plural for licenses, within multiple different countries. I'm pretty sure, certainly, that they saw this coming from a mile away, that communications with the DOJ and the SEC in the USA probably were not going well. And this is why we heard from a number of other countries, hey, if you want to work here, you got to have the paperwork. So Binance kept on getting the paperwork over and over. So Binance will continue basically in every other part of the world except for the US, basically. They also announced earlier, I think it was earlier this year, because of the SEC. This is all tied together, and I'm trying to jump over it, but it's so, you can feel the slime, like something isn't right. It feels disgusting. The SEC filed multiple lawsuits against multiple crypto exchanges. This is why Kraken left the US, and this is why Binance basically announced that they were going to be winding down their operations. And I think the only way to deal in crypto on Binance US was basically by trading crypto. You could not buy or sell using US dollars. Dragging myself out of that entire conversation, in the news today, crypto exchange Binance has said they plan to offer up to 100 tokens in Japan, another part of the world, after announcing over a dozen new digital assets on their exchange, including Arbitrum, Near, and Optimism. This will be the exact same story written down in the history books. While Ripple could not do operations within the United States, they're now working with 30 other central banks to do what they could not do in the US. While Binance has all been obliterated outside or within the United States, around the world, they still are legal. They still can do operations. Other countries have looked into them and found nothing wrong. It's weird that only one country keeps finding something wrong with every single one of these countries. And I mentioned before, it's a little weird. Imagine you own now think of this. Imagine you own a company that's currently valued at around $17, $25, $33 billion. And you're doing work, operations, what have you, and let's say 16 other countries. Are you going to A, make sure that what you're doing in all of those countries is illegal so that eventually you get in trouble? Or B, are you going to make sure that as you begin to work in those countries that you do everything that you possibly can to make sure that your $33 billion company remains legal? I heard someone say A, you know you're wrong. The answer is B. So in other countries around the world, Binance still continues to thrive. The reason why Japan keeps making the news, for those of you who may have just gotten into the cryptocurrency space over the course of the last couple of years, give or take, is that Binance in South Korea years ago basically controlled the cryptocurrency space. They had such high trading volume that basically they were, in essence, the market. So we heard years ago that Japan wanted very strict cryptocurrency rules. They were only allowing certain coins within their borders. I think we got to a point where there were only 7 coins allowed. And then it became 13. And then we heard that Cardano was now allowed. It was, a whole big thing. So now apparently Binance, being legal in Japan, says they're going to offer over 100 coins, meaning that if history repeats itself or happens to lightly rhyme, and we see that Japan and South Korea also hold a huge amount of the cryptocurrency market cap and the movement and the liquidity within the market, and they only have access, let's say, up to 100 coins as opposed to 5,000, their money is going to be a lot more narrow. As opposed to them throwing it in any of the 5,000, they would only be throwing it into roughly around 100 coins, meaning that a lot of these select coins would get a boost. The statement from Binance disclosed a basket of tokens that were listed on the 27th of November. 13 cryptocurrencies make up the list of Binance Japan's latest offering at press time, taking the total number of tradable assets on the platform to 47. These coins qualify for the simplified assessment and listing process offered by the Japan Virtual and Crypto Asset Exchange Association, Japan's self-regulating crypto watchdog. The 13 new tokens that are going to be listed by Binance in Japan are Hashgraph, Near Protocol, Optimism, Immutable X, Arbitrum, The Graph, Render Token, Decentraland, EOS, Gala, ApeCoin, Clayton, and Lisk. I haven't heard the word Lisk in a very long time. Wow. According to the company, this is the largest assortment of digital currencies available on any crypto exchange within Japan. I'm pretty sure most of the other ones tend to have around 13 different coins, so this is also something quite big. Yeah, the history of the cryptocurrency space is going to be one that is marred in and drenched in controversy and a whole bunch of other nonsense that we will hear about in documentaries over the course of the next 10 to 15 years. I saw a lot of people kind of assuming that Binance was done. Oh boy, the DOJ and the SEC got them. They will continue. They are continuing already. It's just more of a it's a shame to see what's happening in order to essentially give BlackRock and Fidelity kind of complete control over a market that should have been and was created for the masses as opposed to just the oneses. Binance continues to expand around the world. I think there was also other Binance news. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they're doing stuff in other countries. I realistically give it 3 months, a real 3 months before this news has kind of disappeared. We will remember Changpeng Zhao probably in the way that we remember Jack Dorsey and or other, the guy who also originally created Dogecoin. They'll be in the background. They'll be there, but things will kind of move on. So that's the Binance is adding new coins to their platform in Japan news. And yeah, let's move on. Wait. Jeez, what's wrong with my... Okay. Also in the news, we've been getting a lot of this since the beginning of the year. I do not own any, not at the moment, but I'm very interested to see what ends up happening with all of these things as the years go by. Data has revealed a new milestone for the Bitcoin blockchain. With a tally of over 40 million, there are now 40 million NFTs that have been etched into the ledger. Inscription records were shattered around early November when a daily peak saw 500,000 new NFTs were created on the Bitcoin blockchain within a single day. The burst of activity propelled Bitcoin to new heights, with the day marking a new peak for daily transactions, ranking only second to the highest day on record for confirmed transactions activity within a 24-hour time frame. As far as I understand it, I believe that each NFT, as they are written on a Satoshi, counts as one single transaction. We had news about a week or so ago, give or take somewhere around that time frame, that one single Satoshi, I think it was believed to be a Satoshi era Satoshi, that is to say, one of the coins that was actually mined by Satoshi Nakamoto and or used by him in some sort of way. And I think it went for like $500,000 or something like that. So, the hype indeed is real. The amount of money that people who are mining Bitcoin, validating these transactions are also making is also going sky high, because with 500,000 new transactions, they're also getting a transaction fee and therefore they're making more money. At the beginning of this year, we had news that Bitcoin NFTs were a thing, and now it's more of a thing and everyone keeps talking about it all the time and how fantastic and amazing they are. I do not think there is a dedicated space to buy them, as far as I know. As far as an OpenSea or something like that, I'm expecting OpenSea to announce Bitcoin NFTs on their platform also at some point. But it is, I'll say this, then we'll move on. It is fascinating to see. Did anyone ever have ideas as to like what the future would look like? I remember as a kid, I would watch a lot of the like late 1980s, early mid 1990s sci-fi, futuristic, where's the world gonna be in 2025, like kind of things, and floating cars and floating skateboards and people riding through space highways, all those things. Not that I expected all of that right now, especially with how slow a lot of progress is going. But, just an idea of the future. There was probably a less than 1% chance that I ever assumed that digital money was going to be a thing. That something that wasn't, entirely controlled by a government or a company was going to be like a form of currency. And then like the smallest fragment of that, being able to like write a book on it or like put some kind of art on it, that definitely is not where I saw things going. And then especially not a fragment of it going for like the cost of a house. Not exactly where I saw things going, but we're getting a lot of Bitcoin NFT news all the time. I think this will only continue as time goes on. Prices are moving up, so logically, mathematically, according to the numbers that we currently have right now, we are already in the bull run. A lot of people sometimes confuse it and think that we need to hit the previous all-time high in order to be there. We are a lot farther ahead in prices than I expected we actually would be. Once again, Bitcoin has already more than doubled this year. And I say that because we haven't even gotten to like the really hypey periods yet. So by the time we pass by 70,000, everyone hold on because it's going to get a little bit insane. But I wonder exactly that $500,000 Satoshi, how much it's going to end up going for. Like imagine if we hear that one Satoshi went for $47 million in the future. Imagine how many people are going to start losing their minds collecting Satoshis and owning Bitcoin NFTs. And then you also have to wonder how many of those also will then like remove actual Bitcoin from circulation. If you have 100 million Satoshis in an entire Bitcoin, and we start hearing that basically entire Bitcoin are completely gone off the market because people are now holding on to them in their, Bitcoin NFT wallet, it's going to be a very, very, very fascinating time. Yeah. That's the Bitcoin NFTs have now surpassed 40 million, and there were over 500,000 of them created in a single day news. Yeah. Let's move on. Also it's not that this isn't big news, but I think people forget that things like this happen within the space. The illusion that we are the only ones in the market needs to be broken because a lot of people, I think, would benefit from knowing news like this. I'll go over it and then, what have you. The National Pension Service, or the NPS, a public pension in South Korea, and one of the world's largest pension funds, apparently purchased over 280,000 stock shares of Coinbase in the third quarter of 2023. An investment that has gained 39% in value since the purchase. Governments and banks and institutions, this is why I go over this news, is to let you understand, because a lot of the misconceptions, especially from friends who I have who are not in the market, they assume it's just me. It's just me, me and you guys sitting here talking about crypto. How's your little YouTube channel doing? They don't understand that it's larger than anything they could possibly conceive. When we go over news that there are countries, that's with an S, actually multiple S's, countries who are mining Bitcoin, who are using Bitcoin, who are stockpiling Bitcoin, it kind of like takes them by surprise. And they're like, I didn't hear about that in the news. Of course you didn't, because why would that be on the normal actual news? When you hear about pension funds, this is used, and I know it's a very dry thing. A lot of people don't care about the saving for retirement thing, which I think is a bit of a shame. Pension funds tend to invest in things that they see longevity in. You as a pension fund, especially a national, like for the country pension fund, You're not going to be investing in a company that you think will be around for the next 2 years because it will damage a portion of your pensions portfolio. You invest in things that you think will be around for at least 10 to 15 years because for national pension plans, you have to show basically the public, at least in transparent countries, you have to show them what you're putting your money in, and you have to explain why you think this is good for the long term. So hearing that, South Korea and Japan were two of the largest markets for the cryptocurrency space, and the National Pension Service, that is to say, people who are putting their money into it in their 20s and expecting to hopefully retire by their early 60s, if not the year, when they're 71, as the way the world is going. You look at where to put your money and you say, crypto is going to be around for a very long time. Let's put our money into essentially one of the largest crypto exchanges who has also gone public. It's Coinbase. It means they see longevity not only in Coinbase, but also in Bitcoin and in crypto. It is a very important thing. It's not simply like some fly-by news that's like, oh, that's cool. It's like, no, they're essentially latching onto the cryptocurrency space and saying this is going to be around for so long that we can put our money down on this to allow people to retire from them or with this, a portion of it, as they get older and older. It's very big news. The National Pension Service of South Korea acquired 282,673 Coinbase shares in Q3 of this year. According to a stock holdings report filed with the US SEC, the investment is worth $27.7 million, according to data from TradingView. And according to the SEC's filing, the National Pension Service has acquired its Coinbase stock for around $19 million, which implies that the pension's profit is roughly around $7 million or 39%. Might not be the most exciting news for a lot of people out there, but when you hear news like this, it shows we may not ever but during this decade, we may not hear directly from the South Korean government, yeah, Bitcoin's amazing, I'm buying Ether. But this is a nod in our direction that they would put any money, nonetheless, $20 million into a company called Coinbase who deals in digital assets. It shows a trust and an extension for the actual future. This was actually relatively large news, which I was quite surprised about because a lot of times you know what ends up being the popular cryptocurrency news. It ends up being absolute nonsense. For those of you who don't know, this is not an unnormal thing. It happens quite frequently. We heard a number of years ago, this is an article from the 20th of September in 2020. It says the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, I believe this is from Norway. I think it's Norway. Indirectly holds around 600 Bitcoin. That's when we got news. I'm pretty sure this is Norway. Yep, the Norwegian Government Pension Fund. They have over $1 trillion worth of assets. They apparently started buying a huge amount of MicroStrategy. And because of the portion of MicroStrategy that the Norwegian Government Pension Fund owns of MicroStrategy, they apparently now hold, in essence, around 600 Bitcoin through their investment holdings with MicroStrategy. So it's been happening for a while. As a government or as someone with a lot of monies, what you tend to do is you diversify. You allocate other money into different regions and stuff like that. We had people, what was it? There were two people over the course of this year, that was also weird news, who were basically saying they think that companies need to be investing between 5 to 10% of their portfolio in crypto now. This number used to be, they used to say between 0.5% to 1%. So the idea of 5 to 10% of any company needing to be in the cryptocurrency space is also something extremely wild from the, understand what a pension fund is. We also, this was years ago. We had news that a lot of different, oh, my leg, finally got to stretch it. Oh gosh, that hurt so much. A number of different pension funds and, what do you call it? pension funds, retirement funds, and sovereign funds were also investing in cryptocurrency companies as well. And also the rumor was also buying tons of crypto. And the idea is, they probably got it years ago. They probably understand exactly where this space is going. You have to at least understand that or know these people are also talking to BlackRock. BlackRock isn't a, company that's inside of a sphere, inside of a bubble. They talk to these companies and these pensions and these governments, and they say, we're going to be putting our money in here because we expect X, Y, and Z. And the governments go, okay, we need to do the exact same thing because they know BlackRock is getting into it to be able to profit from it. Yeah. I think that's going to do it for today's video. I really tried my hardest as far as there's so much more that I want to say about the entire Binance thing, and I know that people want to hear it, but it's more of a, like, it makes me sad more than angry, more than wanting to rant. It's more of a, of course this was going to happen. Of course we would get into a situation where, and I said that earlier this year as well. Of course we were going to get into a situation where Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, and Binance all get in trouble. But the trouble feels weird because why would these companies have all actively made sure that they weren't following the rules? The thing that I was saying before on Twitter as well, and someone, I think one or two people tried to whatever, but I was saying that the amount that Binance has to pay back, was it $4.3 billion to the DOJ? That number is meant to shame you. It's not meant to get justice or recuperate money back from something that was wrong, or to people who may have lost money from X, Y, and Z or unregistered securities. If you ever get a chance, and this is only because I watch a lot of documentaries, I try to post them a lot of times on Twitter to let everyone see them and know what's going on, yada, 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 but I can't remember to put all of them up there. I've seen documentaries about banks, corporations, hedge funds who have moved around hundreds of millions of dollars worth of art in an illegal way, and then they end up getting fined $14 million. We know that. This isn't even speculation. JP Morgan has multiple times been found wrongdoing. And not even just gold and silver, you name it. You can Google articles back into the 80s and 90s. It's always been something terrible with these banks, and when they get fined, it's all right, $50 million. I've heard before, Facebook, the things that they were doing years ago when they were allegedly taking user information and using it in certain other ways. I just heard, remember years ago, this is crazy, look this up as well. And none of this is tinfoil hat, by the way. It's literally just actual things. There was an article I was reading, and they were talking about, remember years ago how Google and all these other companies used to have these cars driving around, doing the maps thing, people waving, hey, I'm on the maps and stuff. Apparently what some of these cars were also doing is they were data scraping. So they had things attached to the cars that basically, as they drove by houses and homes, they were looking for unsecured networks. You have a very long Wi-Fi password now, XY4321, they all look completely insane. Apparently what they were doing back then is they knew that people didn't have really long passwords and or had no password protection. So they were basically driving by these people's homes, and whatever devices they had inside of it, they were looking for unsecured networks, and they were scraping whatever data they could from these networks that let them in as they drove by. And they then took all that information and sold it to other companies to be able to further help them target you with very specific ads. All true. And then the craziest part is when you hear about the fines that these companies had to pay, is okay, 114 million, $28 million. And it's so why does Binance have to pay $4.3 billion? For those of you who don't know why the thing against what it is against Binance is that they were allegedly basically allowing people in other countries to be able to use their platform. That is to say, the charges are that that Binance allegedly was allowing people in sanctioned countries to be able to use cryptocurrencies and or deal in US dollars on their platform when they should not have been able to. But the problem is that VPNs exist. I would find it extremely hard to believe myself that Binance would be like, yeah, fudge it. Let's just let anyone use it so we can continue to get in trouble. When Binance has tons of lawyers backing them, and they also have tons of people on their board of directors who actually used to work for SECs and CFTCs around the world. Why would you actively make sure that you're hurting your business? And then a lot of people were saying, well, Changpeng Zhao, he also pleaded guilty. Do you know how things, and I'll say it this way. I assume that a lot of people around the world don't know how things within the US work. How do I say this? You either get in trouble for what we say that you did and you take a plea bargain, or you get absolutely nothing and we make sure that the heavens rain down on you. Do you understand that? So the only thing in this situation is if they found anything, any scrap of information that proved their case, and they show it to you, well, we have someone in this country who over the course of 6 months was using a VPN to access your services. You didn't stop them. Well, we didn't know. Well, you didn't stop them. Well, we know that you're guilty on this count and you've broken sanctions violations. Therefore, you're guilty. So you either take the plea deal and we let you go and you have to pay us $4.3 billion, or we show you the 9,000 other things that we have. The case gets bigger for you and then you never see the light of day again. That's what I think a lot of people don't understand, is that like the way that things work in the States are typically very different than other places around the world. And excuse my French here, the term is in English, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. It's a double-edged sword. You have to kind of anyway, yeah, all very, very odd. And then finding out or allegedly hearing that it might have been BlackRock who like blew the whistle. None of it sits right with me. It's all very weird, but as I've said, I'm going to take my own advice. In a world where we are hearing that the first trillionaires on the planet could be created because of crypto, of course something like this was going to happen. You clear everyone else out of the way to make sure that you, as the largest institution on the planet, have full reign over everything. Right. I do sincerely hope that you have all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.